Hello, everyone. This is Alfredo Rosales with Real Talk, and today I actually have the pleasure of sitting down here with Andrew PC. Andrew, how you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
So, for those of you who don't know, Andrew owns State Farm offices, insurance offices, but also you do Level Up, I believe it's called.
Yep.
I know you do a lot of educational events, financial educational events.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go into that a little bit because I think it's very important to educate the community as
Yep.
far as their finances.
Yep.
And obviously insurance is very important and required
Yep.
after all. But, but it is important. But I wanted to talk a little bit about you first.
Yeah.
So first of all, Venezuelan,
Yes.
very young,
Mm-hmm.
very successful.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, you are. Latino.
Yes.
So talk to me about you. Where you come from? How long you been here? How did you start on this?
Yeah. So Venezuelan, right? My family's
Proud?
from Italy.
Proud Venezuelan?
Proudly. Super proud. I always say I was reborn the moment I got here.
Okay.
Right. And I always say that because to me, it was basically a second chance to build the future that I always wanted,
Okay.
right? To own a business, to help people, to, do well for me and my family. And so, yeah, but Venezuelan, I came here about 10 years ago. It's crazy, but it feels like yesterday. I was 17 when I came here, and I started at the bottom. I was recycling trash at Mandalay Bay.
Really?
That was my first job.
You worked at Mandalay Bay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was there for about 3 years. So I was recycling trash. Then somebody, I would see the dishwashers from the restaurants, dumping the trash, for us to recycle. And I was like, man, if these people are bringing the trash to us, then it means that that's a better job. So I asked for them, hey, are you guys, yeah. And they were like, yeah, I mean, they're always hiring, but they're hiring dishwashers, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't give a crap. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
So then moved up. For me, that was a step up.
Yeah, it was.
To wash dishes,
Okay.
right? So I would, stay until, 9, 10, 11 p.m., washing all the dishes, when, everybody was gone. And yeah, that was my introduction to the American dream, right?
Okay.
So I was like, washing dishes. I was like, what the hell am I doing here?
How long did that lasted?
6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would see the manager, so then I moved up to the kitchen, then to bass boy and food runner and bar back and all that stuff. But I would see the manager and it'd be like, hey, is there anything better that I could be doing? And she's like, do you speak English? And she was like, and I was like, no. And she was like, then no. So you have to learn English.
Okay.
And so, I kind of
Well, let me ask you, how did you learn English?
So,
Because it's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're very good at it. So
Yeah.
how do you?
So
Quickly too.
Huh? Yeah.
So quickly.
Well, couple things. So the first one is I saw a girl at a restaurant that I really liked, and I was like, I need to ask her out.
Don't disregard that, okay, Mia?
No, you can keep it. She knows. So I saw her and I was like, I need to ask her out, but she didn't speak Spanish. And I was like, hey, listen, I barely speak English, but I really want to go out with you, right? And I would put it on my translator, my Google Translator. And so I went up to her and she was like, okay, sure. So we started going out and we dated for 2.5 years. And that is basically where it came from.
So hey, you don't speak Spanish, I don't speak English.
Yeah.
Why don't we help each other out?
She didn't have any interest in learning Spanish, but I did have interest in learning English. But so I remember she said yes. And I was like, okay, let's go to Six Flags in California. And dude, I remember I was thinking the whole time, what am I going to talk to her about for 4 hours in the car?
In the drive.
On the way there. And so, but she was super nice. She's one of my angels, I would say, because it's nobody does that, nobody goes no, you don't say it this way, you say it that way. And then she would correct me, right? So anyway, I did that for 6 months, then about 6 more months in the kitchen, then 6 months in, running food, and then 6 months in as a bar back, and then kind of just, moved up in that, what I thought was moving up. And, then I got introduced to insurance.
With what you knew at that time, right?
Yeah.
With what you knew,
listen,
the situation.
I always say I'm super thankful. And one of the things that I think that I did and have done really well is to learn how to appreciate the steps, right?
Yeah.
I've never looked down at, oh, I'm washing dishes. To me, I was like, let me just be the best dishwasher that I can be, and then the best food runner and the best bar back and the best
That's a good way to see it. That's a good way. Now let me ask you this: what did you do in Venezuela before you came here?
Nothing.
Okay.
So I was going to school.
Okay.
I was actually going to law school.
Okay.
So I wanted to be an attorney like my mom. And my dream was like...
Well, you had very young, though. You were very young when you came
18.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, you know, I wanted to be an attorney, and my vision was I was going to own a firm and like all that. And so, it changed. So you're...
So I usually see and hear this rhetoric about people migrating from other countries to the United States. And they have this mentality that I'm this person over here. Mm-hmm. And when they have to come to the United States, it's a totally different situation that they didn't know. Mm-hmm. They didn't know they would have to do dishwashers or trash recycling or any of that. And some people fail to move up because of their resistance to do the little steps like you did.
Yeah, well, and a lot of other people too. What I see is they think that they now have to accept the new reality, and they stay there forever. Right? And that to me is like, I always try to talk to people about, listen, you did have to change your reality and your present, right? Your present self, right? But it doesn't mean that you can't work your way up to become whatever you were dreaming about, you know, like before. And so I think that you make, you know, kind of two mistakes, right? Like the first one is thinking that because you're having to do it at the moment, you're never going to have to, or you're never going to be able to move up to whatever you want to become. And then number two is what you were saying, right? Like you think that you don't have to go through the first, like, because again, I always say this, I was reborn the moment that I got here, and that mentality allowed me to be like, okay, this is the reason why I'm going to start at zero.
You started crawling, and you started walking, and then you started running.
Yeah, and it's not, when I say reborn, people think that I'm like, oh, I think that I'm from here. Like, no, bro, like I'm from Venezuela, like proudly, right? But I think that one thing that made me understand the steps that I was taking was the fact that I was like, I'm nothing here, and I'm going to build. And I think that is the beauty of the human being. You can rebuild yourself as many times as you have to, right?
But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that mentality.
Right.
I think that's where it gets lost, and that's why you said people get comfortable in the positions they're in because they figure that's all they can get. Yeah. And, you know, thankfully you went through all that. Your mentality was in the right place. Yeah. You wanted to be successful. You are successful. Now, let me ask you, how did you get introduced to insurance?
Yeah, so the same girl that I was dating,
this girl,
she had to do a lot like with what's happening to me. So it's that's why I'm saying like she's my angel. Like she's, you know, like I always say there are like 3 to 5 people that I basically owe everything that I am today, and she was one of them, right? Like definitely. And the reason why is because her dad owns an insurance agency as well, right? So he owns the agency. They live in like a $5 million home. Yeah. They all drive really nice cars. They all take really nice trips. And so we would go on trips, and I would be like, man, what do you do? Like, I want this life. Yeah. Like that is what I was dreaming when I was a kid. And so I asked her, like, hey, you know, like, what does he do? And she was like, insurance. And I'm like, huh, insurance. So that kind of piqued my interest, right? Because that was kind of like the life that I wanted to live. Of course. And then, from there, one day we were talking. This is like, I don't know, a year and a half into us dating. And I was talking to him, and he was like, hey, listen, you know, everywhere you go, you're talking to people. You're always like, you're an extrovert, and you're like, you know, always building relationships. And that is really what is needed to do insurance. Like, why don't you just do this, right? So I was like, I just didn't think about it, right? Like I was, cleaning tables, and I just didn't think about that move up, right? Of course. Or that step up. And, but I started getting my licenses. I applied with the company that he, has the agency with. And thankfully, they rejected my application.
Oh, nice.
Because then, that didn't work out. So I was probably going to be out without a job if, that didn't work out. So, And so I ended up talking to another person that worked at the restaurant, and he was like, hey, my brother-in-law owns a State Farm agency. Why don't you talk to him and see, what you guys can do? So I talked to him, and that's my second angel, right? Because I met the guy, and he was like, listen, you can have an agency. I can teach you everything you need to, know to own a business and run an agency and like blah, blah. And the only thing I ask from you is you kill it while you're here. Yeah. You sell a lot of policies. You help me grow. You help me do this, and in return,
kind of like a commitment.
Yeah. It was a mutual thing, right? Like we talked, and I was like, I'm willing to do 100% of what you tell me to do. I don't know how to do anything, so if you teach me what you want me to do, then I'll do it. Like one thing that I can tell you is like I want to grow and learn and do better, right? So. Yeah, dude. I mean, again, very few people in the world you're going to encounter that will teach you everything they know for, knowing that in 2 years you're going to leave them.
And be competition.
Yes. Right? And we're like 4 miles away from each other.
And you know what? In real estate, we get those a lot, right? We get people that want to learn, that they ask people, hey, I need to learn. Can you teach me how to do this? But they're not willing to put in the time.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's always got to be some type of return, right?
Yes.
And like he said, he told you, hey, sell policies, kick ass the time that you're here, and I'll teach you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And some people don't realize how important those words are.
Yeah.
I'll teach you.
Yeah. But
yeah, you're gonna help me with this.
Well, and you know what? So I'm sorry, but I always go like there are two kind of things that kind of sub facets to that. So the first one is, there are people that want to learn and grow and whatever, but they don't understand that they have to put in the work. And those people are usually thinking, well, why would I work for you and do all this work for you if I'm just, building your business? Yeah. And that's in my opinion, yes, if you don't own a business, you are kind of working for somebody else's dreams. Yeah. But you have to, because you don't know anything. So why would you think that you want to, or that you deserve to be working for your own without, and you know what's crazy for me with those people is the fact that you almost always see them end up working for somebody else's dreams anyway. Right. Because you have to go back and do it for at some other thing, right? If I would have said that, I would have gone back to the restaurant, which at the end of the day, I'm working for somebody else's dream anyway. Of course. Right? So why not? Yes, you are working for somebody else's dream. Yeah. Yes, you are building somebody else's dream. Yes, he is making more money than you are. Yes, all those things are true. But what is also true is he's given you tools that, to my second point, most people wouldn't give you. Right. Most people would say, nope, you're locked in. Listen, if he saw me,
so why should I teach you, right?
Yeah. And most people would have saw me like naive and just like not knowing anything about the business or the world or the country.
If I would have seen you back then, I would have said, this kid is going to make it. Because the way you talk about it, the way you seem to approach the whole situation, your life, and where you wanted to be, it was a go-getter kid.
Yeah, but you know what? You could have also said, he doesn't know anything about this country. So let me lock him in for 5 years, and I see it all the time, and that's why I'm saying
that's
it. Like
people that would take advantage.
Yeah, yeah. And but what I'm saying is like most people won't teach you everything they know and the tools that they have because they fear that you are going to take them down or whatever, right? Of course. And I always say he's my second angel because he didn't care that I was going to become a direct competition to him 4 miles away from his office, and I'm marketing to his zip code today, right? And I'm like, we today we're like super close. We're friends. We hang out. We have a book club, and we So anyway, I think that those two can be truth, right? Like in the opposite way.
But you know what? To that, I always have a saying to that is that people follow people. Yeah. And people will relate to you. Yeah. People will relate to him, regardless if you market the same community and the same zip code. But again, it's the personality, is the relationship, and the how relatable you are to them.
And how many people do you have in Nevada, right?
Right.
And so you have 3 million people, and the idea that you having a competitor will take you out of business is the wrong approach to start with.
Of course, like even in real estate, we have the same thing. Yeah.
Think about it, right? Like how many homes are you going to sell versus the guy that you're teaching how to sell homes? I mean, it's to me, it's like if you have that mindset, you won't be really successful, or you won't unlock that next level of success.
True.
Because you'll never understand the fact that there is enough for everybody.
True.
Right. And so I just think that, you know, when he showed up in a moment where somebody could have taken advantage of me, right? And let me be completely honest, and I've told him this. If he asked me, I'm going to give you a job, but you have to be with me for 5 years, I would have signed it.
Yeah, of course.
Because to me, I was going to stop getting home smelling like food, and I was going to dress nicely. Like I always wanted to dress like this, right? Like, and it's not like tie or anything. It's just like, you know, like looking nice,
business
right?
Casual.
Yeah. And so I couldn't do that at the restaurant,
of course,
right? So he showed me.
Could, but
yeah, I mean, it was going to look very weird.
Awkward.
So yeah, so when he showed me that opportunity, for me, that was the exit. That was the industry to go into that was going to allow me to be who I wanted to be. And so if he had said, you have to sign a 5-year contract, I would have signed it. But rather, he said, listen, I see in you something that I want to help you become.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes you have, I don't know, there are people that believe in you more than you do. And I feel like those people, you have to keep them very, very close. And
now, let me ask you this. Fast forwarding, obviously, you know, you have your insurance agencies in different states. You're very successful in that end. You have a system, you have a team, you have all that. But talking about entrepreneurship, being Latinos, you know, Latinos in entrepreneurship, you have you have other projects going on.
Yeah.
Talk to me about those.
Yeah. So I always say real estate is the thing that I would be doing if I wasn't doing insurance. And so I try to find homes and, you know, like, you know, under market value and try to fix them and keep them as rentals or whatever, you know, that, so we do some of that, but, then another project was born. And by the way, so real quick before we kind of close that subject, now I have 10 people in my team and about like 6 or 7 of them want to become agents. And so now I created this culture in my agency of finding people that were me, or that are the me at that moment, and showing them the way so that they can become agents.
And to close that out, also, you know, we talk about uniting the Latinos, right? Uniting the brand, protecting the Latino brand. Like, you know, this is something that has been talked about. And that is very important. How do you help Latinos? Because there's always that rhetoric about Latinos push each other out.
Right.
But then we have somebody here that you experience help from somebody. I don't know if he was Latino or not.
No.
Okay. But then now you're doing it to your staff, to your team.
Yeah.
Because you want to see them grow as well, right?
Yeah. And you know, my office, all 10 of them speak Spanish, right? So it's just become this thing where, again, 6 or 7 of them, like we just had a meeting yesterday and it was 14 people in my conference room talking about agency, right? So we were sharing like, you know, the business plan, the business components and all that, to people that are working for an agent today that want to become agency owners one day. Awesome. And so it just became this thing for me where I was like, okay, I'm going to open my agency, but my team's going to be built with people that want to one day become agents.
Awesome.
Because and dude, if you like see my team members, the day one versus today, completely different people, right? And it was because they were I don't know, when I interviewed them, I saw something in them that made me remember when I was getting started. Yeah. So, you know, now we got that going. So that's, you know, one thing. And then the real estate.
Buys and holds, and then you got a financial literacy programs going on too.
So so we do in-person events. Last like 2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, we filled a room. So remember I was telling, so we were expecting 80 people, 110 showed up.
Nice.
So now, and that was born, so it's called Level Up Academy. And so like, you know, level up yourselves or, you know, whatever. And so, you know, when that was born more than a business idea, it was born out of demand, like people just asking like, hey, how are you guys like, you know, achieving the results that you're achieving? Because last year we wrote like, I don't know, 400 or 500 new insurance applications monthly for the whole year. And so people were asking, right? Like, hey, how are you guys doing it? Like, how are you like, you know, because the average agency.
So is this Level Up project has to deal with leveling up businesses?
No, so it's insurance agencies.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so insurance agencies and how to sell. Because again, we were just talking, right? Like in your program, insurance agencies can be doing more if they just focus in the customer, right? And mostly what we see is just people wanting to get the most sales and do the worst job, right? And so it's like, I kind of came in with that in mind. Let me try to change that, right? Let me try to coach people to be just better insurance advisors versus just agents, right? And so we're doing that. And again, it just kind of was born out of, you know, demand
now,
of people.
What would you say to somebody that it's right now thinking they can do more? Somebody that's a dishwasher that's listening, somebody that's a barback or whatever, somebody that maybe wants to be as successful or maybe wants to start their own business. What advice that you gain throughout your years, what would you give them?
Yeah. So I feel like the first thing that you have to do is work on your mind, right? And I feel like sometimes we think that because we're doing, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, sometimes we think that because we're doing something today, we're kind of stuck at that forever. And I heard a saying a long time ago, we're not trees. We can move, we can adapt. A tree has to be a tree forever. We don't have to be what we are today forever. So I think that most people just don't see the next step because they can't take it today. Right? And so what I mean by that is if you can't become a business owner today, then you think that you just can't be a business owner, right? And I feel like what I understood was I'm going to wash dishes the best that I can for 6 months straight. But when I get home, I'm going to watch a podcast. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to educate myself so that when the time comes, you're in that line of luck, right? Because people go like, oh, he was lucky. Like, no, dude, I was just in the line of luck and I was putting in the work. And so when the luck strikes, you better be in the middle so that it hits you.
They say luck is when preparation meets an opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you don't prepare, then the opportunity is going to just fly right by you, right? So so what I would say is the most important thing that I could probably say is that along with you have to believe that you are worthy of that opportunity. Because sometimes like, again, you know, I was 18, I was washing dishes. My dream was kind of crushed, right, to become an attorney. But that didn't stop me, right? I was like, how can I start over and get to work? Because I feel like being an attorney to me was a vehicle that was going to get me to what I wanted, right? Like freedom, my family, and whatever. And I feel like, okay, what is the new vehicle? Like that was my new thought, right? Like, what is the new vehicle? And yes, I'm doing this right now. And I never hated what I was doing because of that reason. I knew that I had to be doing that to move up to the next step and the next step and the next step.
You mentioned earlier, and I was going to ask you that question, mentioned, you know, listen to podcasts, you know, read books and all this. What would be the one book you would suggest for people to read?
Oh, man. Mindset. By Carol Dweck.
Mindset? Is that what it's called?
Mindset.
Okay.
So if I had to attribute my mindset to something, would be that book.
Mindset.
It just reshapes your mindset into what you need to be thinking to be successful. Because again, I might tell you something, and if your mind is just not ready to receive it, you will not do anything with it.
Of course.
So I feel like your mind, people focus on, give me a strategy. And it's like, no, you're not ready for the strategy. I was not ready for the strategy. I had to shape my mind so that when the strategy showed up, I was ready to absorb it and do something with it, right? So I feel like mindset is just one of the most important books. I've read 200-300 books, and I feel like that one is just so crucial. And the other one is Extreme Ownership by he was a Marine. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but Jacob, whatever.
Was it Collins or something like that? I think I've seen.
So Extreme Ownership. And that talks about like you just don't blame anybody else. Even if there is somebody to blame, if you blame yourself and you take ownership and you feel like you could change to become better and you could have done something differently, then you can control that, because you can't control what's happening around you, but you can control what you do yourself.
So to finish this, and I appreciate your time, obviously, being here, and I know we had a show this morning too, but to finish this, anything you want to say to the community, to, you know, business owners, or anybody wants to just be an entrepreneur and be successful at that, anything you want to tell them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like number one, again, your mind is your sharpest tool, right? Like it's you have to feed it, and you have to put in the work to make sure that your mind is in the right place. And I feel like, you know, one thing that I always try to do is emotional intelligence, right? So, you know, how do you become emotionally strong to bear with things that are happening around you and not let them affect you, right? Because a lot of times what I went through was just, I was washing dishes and I couldn't see that there was something better for me, right? Like I was washing dishes and I would go to the restaurant and be like, God dang it, like Jesus, like I just don't want to be doing, like when are the plates going to be gone? Like Jesus. So, you know, I think that that's number one. And number two, the more clear you are, the more you're going to be able to find tools to get you to where you want to be. And what I mean by that is, I never saw insurance as the end goal. My end goal was never that. The insurance or whatever you do is the vehicle, right? Like if you do real estate, is the vehicle that will get you to what you want to be doing. But you first have to know, right? Because if not, then what tools are you looking for? What skills do you need to acquire? And the way you answer that is, I read this in a book a long time ago, and I kind of use it all the time. And it's like, what do you want your life to be like at 70? And then what do you have to be at 60 to achieve that? And then at 50, and then at 40, and then at 30, and then, you know, whatever. So you reverse engineer what you want to be at 70 and what you should be doing today to achieve that goal. But I feel like you first have to know where you want to go, right? Because I feel like then you won't sign up for my training if you don't want to be doing insurance, right? Yeah. And you won't sign up for your thing if, you know, you don't want to be doing real estate. Right. And so I feel like the first thing is just not trying to do it all, right? Because I feel like sometimes we hear real estate and we go like, oh, I like that. Yeah. And then you try to do real estate, and then you hear insurance and I like what Andrew said, so I'm just going to try this. And it's like, no, like just focus. And the third one is that focus, right? So I think that when you focus and you give 100% of what you have to a project, there's no way you're going to fail, right? Like every time I jump into something, I just jump all in. Like I don't just dip my toes and I try no, I'm like, I believe in this. I think that God put that dream in my heart and my mind for a reason, and I just go all the way in, right? Because I feel like too many people just do things part-time. Yeah. And I feel like that's a mistake, because I feel like you can't really become a great insurance agent or a realtor or whatever you do by going 50% in. I feel like the great ones are the ones who decided that they were going to jump all the way and are just becoming good at it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Pizzi, Alfredo Rosales. We'll see you in the next one.